this video, I'm going to be demonstrating using the universal curette on teeth number 3 and 4. First, we want to demonstrate which is the correct working end. One way that I like to use is on the tooth that I'm working on. If I'm going towards the mesial aspect of it, I want to make sure that the face of the blade is actually facing towards the tooth. As you can see here, the face of the blade is actually facing towards the tooth. The incorrect end, if I were to do the same positioning, face of the blade is facing towards me, and that is incorrect. Now on tooth number 3, I'm going to go towards the distal first, and I want to make sure that the face of the blade is actually 0, like on the tooth as I am inserting, and the corner of the toe is adapted towards the tooth. Once I am there, I can open up the blade to about 70 to 80 degrees, and I'm going to scale the distal portion of tooth number 3 by swinging my arm up. I'm going to remove, turning the instrument around, and making sure to keep that corner of that toe adapted to the tooth. And I'm going to have my elbow out so that by the time I get to the line angle, I'll be able to pivot in toward the inner proximal. Okay. Starting with that corner of that toe there, I'm going to go up with my wrist. Scaling along the long buccal, pivoting around. Now I'm in the inner proximal, and I'm going to continue with this motion to scale the mesial surface of tooth number 3. Removing. Now we're going to go towards the distal of tooth number 4, making sure that my handle is at about 0 degrees here for the insertion, and there we are. Now I can open it up to about 80 degrees and scale by just bringing my elbow up and down. Removing. We're going to make sure my elbow is out so that I can pivot in and around the tooth, making sure that corner of that toe of the blade is along the tooth. These hand motions to go up and around and pivot into the inner proximal, and continuing with that along the tooth, the mesial of tooth number 4. Okay. But I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I am using the correct working end. So for tooth number 3 and tooth number 4, as if we're going towards the mesial, the blade is facing towards the tooth that I am wanting to work on. Alrighty. So going towards the distal, making sure, let me just use my mirror here, making sure that I am almost at about 0 degrees and that the corner of the blade, that toe, is adapted towards the tooth. I can insert. I'm going to open it at about to 80 degrees. And I'm going to do my wrist motions to scale the tooth, the distal of 3. Removing, turning my blade around, standing nice and tall. That corner of that toe is adapted towards the tooth. Side to side motions. Making sure my elbow is tucked into my body. So when I hit this line angle, pivoting out, rolling my instrument to get to the inner proximal, continuing with oblique strokes in the inner proximal on that mesial surface of 3. And I will add the up and down. Now, going to tooth number 4, making sure my handle is close to 0 degrees as I am inserting, making sure that the corner is adapted, corner of that toe, inserting, opening up to about 80 degrees. And wrist motion to scale that distal surface of 4. Remove, turn your instrument around, making sure your elbow is tucked in, but standing your hand nice and tall. That corner of that toe is adapted to the tooth. Side to side strokes. Pivoting around, interproximal. Continuing with those same strokes while you're in the interproximal, making sure the toe is adapted towards the tooth, and you can remove.